I think that one of the most dangerous things that people who engage, particularly in romantic relationships with men, can do to themselves is convince themselves that men are unaware of what they are doing. And if we simply educated them, that all would be fine and dandy. Men are not stupid. Men are completely aware of their action. A lot of them enjoy the benefits they reap from the fear that is constantly instilled in us. The ever-present fear of assault, rape, or murder for something like saying no. The truth is, the vast majority of men do not see or view non-men as all the way human. And they don't give a fuck how we feel. So I really don't care if my content comes across as mean, because when men hate women, they want to infiltrate our spaces and harm and kill us. When women hate men, we want them to leave us alone. They do these things to us because they like it. And they won't stop if all we do is simply ask nicely for them to quit it.
Oh, isn't she just a darling little walking red flag here to spread her feminist agenda on TikTok and poison the minds of young women by telling them that all men are out to get them, all men are sadistic, all men get off on seeing them afraid and terrified. There's always a high chance that someone has serious emotional issues if they have gauges. And of course, this one has gauges. It is a sign that a woman has some sort of trauma in her life, especially combined with tons of piercings and tattoos, just like this one has. Are most women constantly afraid like this one is? Are most women constantly living in fear of men? I don't think so. At least not for now, because this mind virus is spreading quite quickly and men all across the country have been noticing. And her charge that men who hate women want to infiltrate our spaces and kill us is made all the more ironic by the fact that feminists are the ones who coined the phrase, kill all men. If this woman were talking about the World Economic Forum or the bankers, she would be branded a paranoid lunatic, but instead she's talking about all men, and this is boilerplate feminism. In real time, we are watching them demonize and delegitimize all male authority and really the existence of masculine men in general. And that's not a reactionary talking point on my part. This is just a generic opinion this woman has. This is boilerplate feminism. You go on these college campuses today, you go on these universities today, and you will meet plenty of young women and even beta simp young men who think exactly the same way. It is pathological.
If this isn't proof that it's totally okay not to be married by 30, to live life on a completely different timeline. I'm 37 and I still don't know what I'm doing in my life, but it's a Friday and life can totally be awesome. And I'm just like hanging out at the pyramids, all dressed up. Just living life, guys.
37 and she still doesn't know what she's doing. Just living life with her Diet Pepsi, just at the pyramids, girl bossing it up, all dressed up, all ready to go, enjoying things on this trip, presumably all by herself for some reason. The rootless cosmopolitan life is just so fulfilling. Travel, experiences in foreign places, all by yourself. That's really more important than, community, family, heritage, lineage, what you're going to leave behind after you die. Okay, I won't belabor the point. We all know she's dying inside. Let's move on.
Speaking of eating, have you ever ate?
I have not.
You have not?
Have
you
not.
ever had your ass ate?
Have not.
Oh,
Don't
you
plan
just
on
stay
either
away
one.
from the whole thing.
I don't really see the aura around it. The allure. Sorry, the allure. I don't see the allure of it.
It's because it's the wrong hole. It's like you're breaking the rules.
But the difference is the right hole is like literally right there.
You'll really have leftists and feminists gaslighting, going, there's no moral decline in this country. That's a reactionary talking point. That's just a moral panic, and morality has always changed. Culture has always changed. And now you just see hardcore, graphic, degrading, pornographic acts being discussed openly on one of the most widely watched podcasts in the entire country. Perhaps really even the entire world. Deeply disappointing.
Is God tolerant?
I think it's your job to mind your business.
No. My question to you is God tolerant? You projected all of these values.
I would say God is tolerant.
Okay, so in Genesis, it says that when God created mankind, he made them male and female. And in Leviticus, it says for a male to have sexual relations with another man as he would with a woman, that is an abomination in God's eyes.
This guy has new convert energy for sure. Like, it sounds like this guy was like, oh, I was living a life that was depraved and you know, hedonistic, and it probably was a really harmful life. And then he found religion. And for a lot of people that like have like pretty chaotic lives, religion is a really good alternative for them because it like imposes artificially a structure on them that it seems like they weren't able to like establish themselves. When I hear Christians on these talk shows, first of all, why are you going to talk to a whole bunch of people about your faith and about what God says when you know that none of them believe in your God? Even the Bible makes it clear that like that's a pretty cringe thing to do. Like, you don't go up to a whole bunch of people who don't believe in your God and be like, you have to follow these prescriptions. And they're like, why? And they're like, because my God said so. It's like, what? That's not how any of this ever worked. Literally ever. Even like Paul didn't do that. The entire Old Testament, if you read it like as the way it's written, is essentially stories of people negotiating with God. The idea that God is like this unmoving, uncompromising being that like Christians talk about is just like, I just don't know how they read Old Testament stories, particularly like Abrahamic stories, and they come away with that conclusion. It's so weird.
My mind is boggled by how ignorant some people can be. There's no basis for evangelism in the scripture. There's no point at which Christians are called to share the message with non-Christians, to engage non-Christians in debate. Paul himself did this. Oh, he's got new convert energy. All this armchair psychologizing she's doing is just to delegitimize his position. She's got absolutely nothing to say about what real gay culture is like in the United States. And she knows nothing of the covenants, the law, or the Old Testament. And her response is totally disingenuous as well. This is, of course, a bad faith clip. I shouldn't even expect any kind of consistency or intellectual honesty on the part of a clip that was posted to a Destiny fan channel on TikTok. But the question from the original podcast, the whatever podcast they were talking about, is whether or not God is tolerant. And God is not tolerant. This is affirmed not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament. God literally will send millions and really billions of people to the fires of Gehenna to be annihilated. Does that sound like a tolerant God to you? If God were truly tolerant, he would have compromised on the curse of old age and death with millions and millions of people. He would have just said, fine, you don't have to grow old and die. You can just be young forever, as though you already have eternal life. God does not compromise with sin at any point. These instances of people going back and forth in the Old Testament with God definitely showcase the Lord's mercy and patience, but not as compromise. The Lord's judgments always arrive in one way or another, and this video by this woman is yet more confirmation that women, generally speaking, should not participate in moral instruction. This is terrible. Her conclusions are terrible. She may even be lying about having read the Old Testament. I bet she just watched a video on the Old Testament, now thinks she knows everything about it, now thinks it's a book of God bargaining and compromising with humanity. But what can you expect from someone who would probably say that Destiny is a good debater?
Who's going to command more attention and value in the sexual marketplace, a male lawyer or a female lawyer?
It depends on the types of guys she's looking for. Not the guys that are just looking for a 20-year-old fuckable bangmate. If she's like at a fucking law firm somewhere, she's probably going to be hit on because it's going to be 90% lawyers there. Yeah. Like, for instance, you think a computer programming woman has high sexual value? You can say no, but put her in a college where it's 99% men. Or look at like women in the army,
let's make it easy, right? The 30-year-old male lawyer is going to be much more attractive than that 30-year-old female lawyer, and the reason why is because that man has more options than that woman.
Sure, broadly speaking, but the options that woman is losing are people she would want to date anyway.
But those men are now being ostracized because of her status. Had she not been a lawyer, she would have had more options.
But the options that she's losing are probably options she wouldn't want to be with anyway.
No,
if a woman is a lawyer,
lower, she wouldn't care.
Her status isn't lower, she's a lawyer. If a woman is a lawyer at 30, and there are some guys that don't want to date her because she's a lawyer, she would never want to be with those guys. That's the whole point.
So she's effectively lowered her own ability to get a mate because of her success. That's what I'm trying to say.
You say lower ability. When I go on Tinder and I say no crackheads, I'm lowering my options too.
Destiny is such a moron. I know he's there to play devil's advocate or whatever, and he doesn't even say anything he believes, but a tech campus is not the same thing as a law firm. People are really not dating other people in their law firms. If you work at a law firm, you have options. You have options. You're not some a young programmer going to RIT or wherever, some college that's known for computer science, and there's like only a couple girls in your whole college and you're a wallflower, et cetera, et cetera. These are two different career fields. And again, life changes after you graduate. And like with women in the army, the desert queens, once they're extracted from that environment, they lose all their value because they've been taking miles and miles and miles of guys' things. You know, there's so much competition. You know, they're passed around. It's terrible. Destiny keeps going, oh, they're just options she wouldn't want to be with anyway. Well, she would want to be with them before she had all this money and upward mobility. Now that she's climbed the social ladder, she realizes she's got a lot more competition. She's older. She's deferred at least 6 years of her life because she probably has more than one degree, you know, a 4-year degree and then a master's, in order to get this position. And now she's competing for wealthy men who are in the same career field who can afford to date younger, who can afford to find younger women who will not have as high expectations of them as she does. And a regular man, an average man, is not the same thing as a crackhead. That is ridiculous. This is why it's better that women did not open this Pandora's box.
Boys are stronger than girls.
Are you joking? Only one kid?
Well, physically, like, for the most part, in gender roles and stuff like that, boys are just supposed to be stronger. That's just a thing that happens.
Right,
they
in
work out at the
science.
gym, and yeah, girls certainly can work out too if they want, but again, it's more common for boys.
Can I disagree or step forward?
I still can't believe that literally every other kid disagrees.
Want to say what gender, like, depends, like, who's stronger.
Here we go.
It doesn't matter what gender you are. It matters who you are. It doesn't matter what you were born. It matters what you want to be.
I play volleyball, and sometimes we play the boys' teams, and we, like, you know, we've crushed them a couple times, and it feels so good, you know. So I don't agree with that.
Just because you won one game of volleyball against the boys does not mean that you're stronger. It just means that you're better at the sport. Not many guys play volleyball. I honestly just can't even believe that this is still a debate.
These kids are also prepubescent, which is an important factor here. If I'm not mistaken, there are actually some points in the development of children where the average female height will even be on parity with or higher than the average male height. However, obviously after puberty this changes. But this is what you get when you have a bunch of Gen Xers and early millennials raising children. They raise a bunch of strong, empowered women who are ready to enter the workforce and be girl bosses. It matters what you want to be, that one girl says. Oh, how her parents have filled her head with nonsense. And how the school system simply reinforces it. What a shame. What a shame. Patterns in material reality don't matter. It's just your desire what matters. It's just what you want to be that counts. That is awful. That is an awful lesson to teach your child.
I find it so bizarre that right-wingers think that asking this question is like a gotcha. There are tens of thousands of people who die every year, including children, of gun violence, of poverty. Healthcare costs are through the fucking roof. Inflation is out of control. Home prices are out of control. Yet wages have stayed stagnant. Wealthy people continue to benefit from tax loopholes and tax cuts and government handouts, while the rest of us live paycheck to paycheck and keep getting poor despite having 3 fucking jobs. But this is what you're worried about. This is your priority. Some stupid bullshit culture war that you fell victim to. You can't even define what a woman is. You'll tell me it's someone who has XX chromosomes. Okay, what about intersex people who may just have one X chromosome, or who may have XXY chromosomes? You'll tell me it's someone who can give birth. So is a woman not a woman anymore if she gets a hysterectomy? Or if she goes through menopause?
Does a man really become happier when a doctor inverts his penis? That's really the question we should all be asking here. Does a man finally achieve true happiness through the medical inversion of his penis? Or does a woman achieve true happiness through the mutilation of her breasts and the removal of tons of tissue from one of her arms in order to construct a phallus over top her vagina. Does that bring true happiness? And if it doesn't, why would anyone ever say that it does? I mean, that's kind of an important issue. Kind of a culturally relevant thing that countless millions of Americans have now lost their minds and think this is an acceptable behavior. This isn't some culture war talking point. You people are off your rocker. Inflation and home prices are both problems caused by Democrats. You're the ones who impose all these insane zoning laws. And then the one time you want to alter zoning laws, it's just so you can open up more multi-units to import more Democratic voters. They don't want more people to enjoy the American dream. They don't want men to live healthy lives as patriarchs of their family. They want an atomized, socially uncohesive culture, which will submit to the lunacy of saying that men are women, or men can be women, and women can become men. Absolutely disgusting deflection there. And as though culture doesn't matter at all, as though social mores and how we govern our society, how people interact and relate to one another is an important aspect of it, just as material conditions are an important aspect, as though you're like, oh, you're not focusing on the real issues. Don't gaslight us. Disgusting. Disgusting. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please share, and Red Channels will catch you in the next one.